Hey guys, Rex here. So is there anybody out there that actually sincerely is surprised to see all these things unfolding exactly the way they are, exactly on time, exactly as it has been written for thousands of years? I'm actually surprised with the degree of precision has happened, and that's just because of the lack of my own faith. Like, I always envisioned that all this stuff would come to pass in a very cryptic, esoteric fashion that only like the real smart guys could determine. You know what I mean? It's not. It's like it's so obvious, right in the face. And exactly on time too. That's the other thing. There's like no excuse not to understand, especially for those that are versed in what is supposed to happen, those that are in the know with what has been written, right? If you've read the story in the book, not surprising at all. Okay? But interestingly, so many of us, myself included at times, right? Like, we run around with our hair on fire, like striving and searching for any mode of our own human strength to try to evade some of these consequences or try to prolong it even longer. You know, he has perfect timing. He has written that time and set it aside for a reason. He's the ultimate crop manager. He knew when this crop would come to its full fruit, after which point, if you do not harvest the crop, it starts to rot in the field and go bad. So there's a perfect time. It's like a curve where you get the maximum harvest, and if you wait too long, then it goes back down. That's what this whole deal is. People forget that this whole situation called Earth is not about here. This part is a test. Like, that's the whole point of this deal, is a test, okay? And we look with such short-sighted, myopic vision, right, to where we only see stuff on this plane. And that's what gets us all bent out of shape, because, like, our comfort is threatened. Our materialistic human way of life is definitely threatened. But that's necessary for the reaction to happen, to get people to turn back away. See, we don't do so well with prosperity. We've proven that in America. The ones that are most responsible is the ones that knew what was written, knew who he was, and still failed in their task to get the nation to repent collectively. So what happens? What always happens? Judgment, okay? And it's a good thing when it happens. You know, interesting to see people scrambling and begging to get out of the most loving correction possible. Like, for 50 years straight, it's been 50 years now, we've been sacrificing the most innocent in our nation in the guise of convenience and liberty. What do we do with our liberty that we think we deserve? You know, we think we just automatically deserve liberty without any positive energy input, maintenance, responsibility. Like, we want liberty, but we don't want any responsibility for what we do with it, especially when it's horrible, right? So what have we done with our liberty? Murdering babies, Michael Jackson, getting rich, Grand Theft Auto Part 9, for the grandkids for Molech Day, because we don't want to hear what he has to say. We don't want to obey any of his stuff. We don't want to celebrate his celebrations. We want to do what we want to do. Nah, you know, I think I'm going to worship Satan instead, but we're going to do it in his name, and then we're going to give the kids Grand Theft Auto 9 for a present, because that's exactly what Jesus would want us to do. Like, yeah, okay. Like, you can only do that for so many generations before the hammer comes down. And sorry, not trying to be comedic about it, but it's true. We are, like, way, like, beyond deserving, like, the ultimate ass beating in history. All the blessings we have received in this country over the years, the highest standard of living in history times 1,000. We live 1,000 times more comfortable than the pharaohs did, than the Caesars did. Any form of pleasure in a second, at our fingertips, immediately. zero work, zero cost. Everything, like refrigeration. You got air conditioners, furnaces, entertainment of all kinds on demand from any part of the world. Exotic, like, delicacies, like. And what do we do with all that blessing? We not only partake in the abominations of the worst kind, we export them. And there's countries that have tried to not take them on, and they've been punished severely by this one because we wanted them to do it because it wasn't politically correct for them to refuse the abominations. Oh, you don't want to chop up babies, huh? Well, what the hell's the matter with you? Oh, you're about to have yourself a plane crash. Oh, all your guys just got killed. Now you're going to fall into line, aren't you? Yeah, celebrate Molech's birthday again. What's the most horrific video game we can imagine now to give to our kids? Rex, why are you picking on video games? Because it's one of infinity things that a guy can easily grab, right? I mean, turn on the TV and just look in any direction. You can't swing a cat in Walmart with hitting like 900 abominations off the shelves, okay? And we all know this. This stuff has to come to pass. It's going to be the blessing of having our comforts removed so that we can finally snap out of the trance, if it's possible, and return back to Him for those that can do it. We don't deserve all those liberties and freedoms that we think we're entitled to. It's interesting when I really sit back and think about it. And I had to have some brothers help me out on this one too, because it's hard for me. Like, I'm a patriotic kind of guy, like deep down, like it's hard for me. I don't want to let go. Like, I love the colors, and all that stuff, and I love the team. Swear the oath to the Constitution, to uphold and defend the principles of the Constitution. But interestingly, when you look at what the principles of the Constitution were, nobody is standing for those principles at all. We bastardize it and twist it in wickedness and rape it to our own destruction. And then, on top of it, we use His name in vain, claiming like, oh, we're His people. Be careful with that one. I got to be careful with that one. He does not like it when that happens. In fact, I could tell you that He'll destroy people that use His name in vain. Very sobering. So, gird up thy loins, right? I think it's time for us to really seriously come to grips with reality. We have not been living in reality our entire lives. This entire generation is just completely toast. It's gonna, all the things that were, the scariest things that are in the book are upon us. They're like right at the doorstep, knocking, and the door's cracked open. And I don't know how far exactly along we are. I know certain checkpoints we've passed, and I know what's coming next. And the quickening is here too, right? I mean, it's happening so fast. Like, I would not be surprised if in like 5 minutes the fire judgment came. You know what I'm saying? There's multiple fire judgments in the scriptures, but it's very interesting to read that stuff, especially considering the amount of filth that has to be cleansed from this earth before He can return, before He can establish the kingdom. He can't establish a king. You got to clean it up first, got to make smooth the path. And if we are in the way of that path of righteousness, He will mow it down like a bulldozer and burn it and cleanse it. And His shall be beaten, tribulated. That's what a tribulum is. Tribulum is a harvesting instrument. It's used to beat the wheat out of the chaff. Up here we got combines called the cylinder. It beats the wheat out of the chaff, right? The tribulum is that part. It used to be a paddle in the old days. The point of that instrument being invented was to beat the two until they were separated. You don't get to find out what's what until after the after the tribulation, which is a harvesting term, which means to beat the crap out of it. So stand by for that. And like I said again, it's easy to get lost, especially in the digital world. And I've been down a number of rabbit trails, for sure. But the original point of the entire channel has always been the same, and I never had heart or direction or anything to change the channel description. Go check it out. If there's stuff in there that you're not familiar with, you might want to familiarize yourself with it. If you're called, you need to actively pursue that. Too many of us have been sitting here just living comfortably, thinking he's going to deliver it to the door like a Domino's pizza, and we don't have to get off the couch to live out our faith. It's not how this deal works. So all the stuff we're delinquent on in the past, if we're not his, you might be strangely comfortable until the final judgment. But if we're his, stand by for all those different, whatever it is that we were short on before, to be squared away and straightened out in a hurry. Like when we fail to fix it, he will fix it. And it's not always super comfortable. Don't be dismayed by the news. Simply use it as a motivator to realign yourself. Not like if you stare into the abyss of the news and it scares you, and then you continue to stare into that and look into that for your hope, it's not going to work out that good, I'm telling you. It should snap you out of it enough to look up, because that's the only place possible where you're going to find any kind of peace or healing.